Hello and welcome to This Contains Garlic. You are here with your hosts Georgia Garlic
Mark Garlic.
and we are back for episode
Six.
6. Yeah, well done. I can count. I think we're just going to start this off actually by saying thank you very much for all the feedback so far on the podcast. I don't think any of us, there's only two of us, either of us realised I guess how much you would all enjoy it. So I guess it's kept us motivated for the future. Pleasantly surprised, So yeah, we went in very much just doing it off of a whim, I guess, and just hoping that you guys would enjoy it and would enjoy the conversation. But the feedback has been really, really good so far. So thank you if you are listening right now.
Yeah, we appreciate
we
you
very much
listening.
Appreciate it.
And if you do enjoy it, then share, follow, like, subscribe.
Okay, Mark, for God's sake, what is this? A sponsored? No, we're not sponsored yet. Anyone wants to sponsor us? Anyway, we're going to talk today about supplements and all the vibe that comes with it. I'm sure we'll be debunking, like what people like to use, debunk.
No BS.
No BS. You know what? So many of you contact us and they're like, we love your no BS approach. And it's just like, oh, okay. Literally, you don't even necessarily realise you're doing it.
Go out of your way to be non-BS.
I guess majority of the industry is a lot of bullshit anyway.
And a lot of the bullshit around the industry does revolve around supplementation.
Yeah, so I think today we're going to talk about legit supplements, stuff that actually can really help you, and then also things that unfortunately don't really help you but are sold to you that they can help you. And I think this is a massive problem because I guess for years and years and years and years and years we've been sold that things can be sort of a miracle with supplements, and it's just not the case. So I think first off, I think we should talk about the supplements that first off, I think before you supplement with anything, you need to be addressing your lifestyle habits overall.
Yeah, supplementation comes down to hierarchy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And if you imagine all of your self-care habits and your life in general, it kind of represents a pyramid with the most important habits and the most influencing habits going at the bottom, forming your foundation that you build the rest of your structure on top of.
Yeah. So if you've actually ever coached us going off of this, if you've coached with us, if you've ever used any of our sort of free resources or anything, we do always put down a pyramid. Yeah. And we always say number one is adherence.
Yeah, adherence and consistency. And then you travel your whole way up to the top of the pyramid, which is supplementation. So what does that mean? That basically means that without certain lifestyle habits and progressive self-care habits being adjusted and adhered to on a consistent basis, the chance of you seeing massive benefits from supplementation of any kind would be greatly diminished.
Yeah, so it's one of these things where vitamins and all of these things have been sold to us that if you take this and this, that you'll suddenly get either perfect skin or you'll feel better or your metabolic rate will just increase rapidly or, you'll have more energy. And actually, realistically, when you knock back one omega-3 supplement, unfortunately, your joints are not going to suddenly be lubricated and your brain's functioning at you have to be doing things on a consistent basis alongside addressing your overall lifestyle.
Supplementation to a certain degree can almost be seen, and we've said this before, like a bandage over a bullet wound.
Yeah, it's you've just been shot. Not that I would like you to be shot. That's a bit aggressive. Hi, everyone. We're talking about supplements. If you've been shot, no. Yeah, I mean, it's like putting a plaster over a bullet wound. There's no point taking all these things if you're not addressing the things that also go alongside it. The biggest one probably being sleep, nutrition, movement, all of these things that actually make you feel better than the supplements themselves.
Exactly.
And I think a supplement also comes down to the placebo effect that it does.
Yeah, which has been scientifically proven to sometimes be stronger than the actual benefits from supplementation.
Yeah, and so many clinical trials are taken these days where, both medically and lifestyle orientated, where, the placebo effect has got a very strong power over people. Yeah. And sometimes it's your mind that's telling you that you're making change or progress or,
and we as an industry have to put our hands up not us and personally, but as an industry as a whole, because we use clever marketing words and cherry picking studies and things like that to really hone in on people's
like vulnerabilities
to make people then have that
I think it also runs
irrational not irrational, but like that instinctive purchase
why does an instant purchase happen is because there's something triggering your brain that you're going to get what you see, do you know what I mean, and you're going to achieve what somebody else has achieved. You're going to do all of this.
Maybe you're going to look like that person, or maybe you're going to...
I don't even think it comes down to that. We've always been sold an instant result. So like if you've bought a bottle of, I mean, back in the day, like maybe they're still going now, but like raspberry ketones, those ones from bloody Holland and Barrett, that place is ridden with fucking
it goes as back as Hydroxycut with Muscle
and
Tech,
apple cider vinegar tablets, all of these things that were like, you're not going to be bloated. Well, if you do take apple cider vinegar, and there's so many people selling it like as your answer to balance your glucose levels or to do all of these
or something to
nonsense shit, you're just going to end up with heartburn. Nothing else fucking happens when you knock back a shot of vinegar. Like there is limited.
There's a lot of things that people pick up on. So the things that you generally see within the supplement industry will be things like bloating, digestion. Then you see words like increased fat loss, and all these other marketing jibes and words and catchy phrases that really sound attractive, but all have a caveat, which is need to be used in conjunction with a healthy diet and some form of exercise.
Healthy diet. Like there was always this thing, and I'm sure many women who are listening to this will remember this because this was directly targeted at women, which look, there's a huge amount of supplements that are pumped towards men in the sense of like getting shredded,
testosterone,
better libido
boosters,
and fucking all of this nonsense. But with the female industry, it's a lot about weight loss, you know, and I'll never forget, and I did it back in the day, taking Adios pills, and there was a specific advert for this, and it was on the TV, and it was on national TV, and it used to be some woman like shaking her hips and shaking the bottle, and it was like adios to the fat. And I remember all I did when I took that is I had the fucking shits. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. I was literally genuinely shitting myself left, right and centre and thinking, oh, this is great.
Yeah, probably just a laxative packaged up in.
Yeah, and it's so bad for you because if your body can't take that stuff, you know, some of the supplements that have been around have been known to kill people. Like it's not light-hearted that this stuff,
in conjunction with other
well, no, there's been many, if we were talking on stuff like fat burners and stuff, like that intake, you know, huge intake. Some of those ones are really, I would call black market.
Yeah,
they're not like...
have been fat burners or pre-workouts that professional athletes have taken and failed drug tests.
Yeah, and also stuff like, we're not going to name brands on here, barring I just called Adios, but I don't think they're around now. If they are, then throw them in Adios, just fuck off, yeah, literally. But like, I think, you know, there are a lot of things where there have been very, very well-known pyramid schemes, shall we call, who also have pumped every single person onto a scheme of some kind of supplementation that is for weight loss, which has built up in their system over a period of time, and it's had horrible effects on them long term. You know, there's a huge amount of studies being undertaken in this current day and age, like showing that. Unfortunately, you've just got to remember with a lot of these supplement companies, like a lot of them do very well.
A lot of them do lawyer up as well.
Hugely so. You mentioned their names. This is why we're not. You
very
get sued.
Large brands that have been linked to liver toxicity.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was kind of in my head referring to.
So it's one of these things where at face value you need to be very cautious and cognizant of the fact that people are generally trying to take advantage of you.
Yeah, and I think if we're going off on our industry,
even when you create a supplement, people will also generally want to maximize economies of scale and cut corners when it comes to sweeteners and fillers and all these other, you know, maybe changing the quality of the macronutrients and other aspects to
make it more affordable,
to make it more affordable or financial for their own benefit.
Yeah, so like, just how if you go into the supermarket now, like as if you live in the UK, I can't really speak for anywhere else currently, but I know worldwide that there is an issue with cost of living. But if you were to go into the supermarket now, you would be paying like a premium, but you'd be probably be getting half the amount that you used to be able to get. And it's the same thing with supplements when people do well. And I'll never forget when we used a UK-based protein for a very long period of time. It was stocked in a lot of the well-known studios around London, and then they changed all their ingredients, and it went from tasting really fucking good to absolutely disgusting. And they lost a huge percentage of people from that.
One of the only whey protein shakes that actually tasted half decent.
And then they changed it because it was more cost-effective. They made more of a profit by changing it. Well, obviously, you're going to lose people with that. But anyway,
because at the end of the day, it does come down to the bottom dollar.
Yeah, the thing is though, like
understand that as well.
Just like we're not going to get into the the conspiracy theories behind all this, but just like pharma companies and all of this, like all of our jobs are to technically help people, but yet there's probably 95% of people that don't want to help people and they just want to make a profit. And this is something you've always got to understand. Like if somebody is consistently selling you a supplement, there's something not really adding up here, because the supplement doesn't change your life. There's a number of different, it's an easy way to make money. And that's what our industry has really been built on in the past.
Honing on a discount code, and then that gives you, if you're selling hundreds of thousands of bottles of BCAAs and you're getting 10 quid a bottle.
Well, I think going from that, let's get into sort of our industry, like common supplements that are sold to you that don't have, or let's explain to you like what they are, and then like why they're utilized in certain ways, and why people still sell them even though they know themselves, the ones that are selling them, that they don't work. When you see that person in the gym, or you might see somebody on social media that's got looks like a bit of fruit squash and some water, and you think, oh, I need that. You don't, but let's go on to that, because BCAA is one of the biggest things that we get asked about, and it really pisses me off that some of the leaders, I'm putting that in brackets, leaders, unfortunately they're leaders, but I don't feel like they should be leaders, because they're not leading the right pathway to like helping people.
Just because you're Instagram famous and you've got the blue tick and the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, doesn't necessarily mean you're the leader of a certain industry.
Yeah, and
you're just the most popular.
You're just the most popular because you look nice, or you might have nice things that nobody else has, and you can show it off. And I think going on to that, BCAAs are...
So we see it very common to see people pushing branched chain amino acids, which is basically a combination of essential and non-essential amino acids used to supposedly A, give you energy in inverted commas, and B, stop you from going catabolic or breaking muscle down quicker than you can build muscle. But obviously with time moving on and the popularity of these supplements coming to light, not we personally, but the industry have undergone scientific studies to validate whether or not these supplements are worthwhile or not. And it is resounding, no questions asked, that branched chain amino acids are not necessary and can actually be counterproductive
for
mental health and your body composition. There are studies actually showing that people taking branched chain amino acids had a regression in their body composition. But obviously these studies are open for interpretation, and not every study is 100% accurate. But
this is also, can I just point out, when it comes to studies and stuff like that, there are, especially with supplements, as we mentioned just before earlier, there's a lot of bias towards like whether something works or doesn't work. And the thing with studies is that you always got to look at it from the overview. Like a lot of studies are taken with minimal amounts of people. These people might be all of a set weight, they might be all of the same lifestyle, they are a very select group.
They could be the same ethnicity, they could be the same gender, they could, there's a lot of caveats.
And so there is going to be, you've always got to look at it as this, most of studies are taken on very small groups of people, and this is the problem, because then you can obviously argue.
Then you've also got to think about who's funding the studies. But anyway, we're digressing a little bit. So
I think BCAAs, obviously, a lot of it came down to, okay, they don't have benefit, okay, to you on a day-to-day basis.
Only if you're consuming enough protein on a day-to-day basis, but there is a little bit of benefit for vegans and vegetarians that may or may not be able to get the wider spectrum of branched chain amino acids into their diet.
But then again, in my opinion, I wouldn't be jumping to a BCAA if I was a vegan or vegetarian, because I just don't believe that you need to have
and
that in your life.
A caveat that we want everybody to kind of take away is like, if you can achieve supplementation from whole food sources, then that would be your optimal goal, like vitamin C or vitamin D, or certain vitamins and minerals. If you can, for example, protein as a larger macronutrient, if you can get those in from whole food sources, then that is the ideal goal over aiming for just supplementation.
Like itself. If you, as we say, like, if you're not ticking all the boxes on the other side, there is no point in knocking back a pill or a powder and hoping for best. The only one I will say that probably out of all these supplements will see benefit if you knock it back in the sense of hitting targets is something like a protein powder. Again, can be made with a load of shit ingredients, but on average, protein powders are a very useful and convenient way. But as we've said, a lot of protein powders taste like dog shit. So, there are ways, like, we've said this on our social media a couple of times. We prefer, if we're going to have a protein thing, to have like a protein milk or something that's like a kind of like a chocolate milk, kind of like a milkshake, just kind not a powder. But, so BCAA is obviously like, that's probably the top one. We see them being sold 24/7 online. And it's one of the supplements I just think.
It really, it almost triggers me that we're at the point now where the science is resounding.
So clear. It's so clear.
As simple as the sun rises and sets each day, it's pretty drawn and laid out that it is not beneficial if you're hitting your protein targets. So then my question is, why are you selling them in the first place?
Well, I think people sell things because they know that they either have a very large market, and unfortunately we have a very we literally are. I've always been in this industry the same as you, where we're here to like actually just do our job, and I think like doing your job sometimes doesn't bring you all of the benefits that not doing a job and selling a load of shit can do. Like, fuck, I could really make some
there's
shit,
a lot of
like,
friction
money
in there's a lot of friction in doing it properly, in the sense of like
when I became like when I grew a following on social media to some degree, I was offered, and this was years ago when I first was really in the industry, I was offered a number of different options to pump out supplements. Like, I'm not going to obviously mention names, but like I got a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of money on the table with those things, especially back in the day. If you're one of the only ones that was online, or you had a clientele base that was well known, or all of this stuff, it all adds up, and people are like, oh, do you know what, she's a good one to promote that. And I will say, hand on my heart, I haven't once ever promoted a supplement in this whole time I've ever been in the industry, in the sense of like
for financial gain.
For financial gain. Well,
I don't promote of promoting a supplement to better your client's lifestyle.
But I don't sell it. I would say I would advise if somebody, like a creatine or like a protein powder. But I have never said like go. We get asked a lot, like what different brands and what this. And
a lot of questions around supplementation, especially around gut health. And
the thing with gut health is, it's very mixed.
The thing with gut health is, because it's only just come about realistically in the last 5 years, even the people that are at the pinnacle of gut health, the doctors and the people actually carrying out the scientific research, they don't understand the gut health. It's something that's still unfolding. Nobody really can
fully understands.
Pin down all the different impacts and all the different bacterias and the
but I think
influencing
if we gave an example, say you had a client or an individual who had was sleeping 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night, had minimal nutrition, nothing nutrient dense in their diet. They didn't drink any water. They just pumped loads of just like a coffee and caffeine and all of this stuff. Not that caffeine is bad. No. Caffeine's actually a very well researched and perfectly
fine. But just like underhydrated, basically.
But that's an individual, and then they're going, okay, well, take a probiotic or a prebiotic.
Yeah, because that person, because they're not sleeping.
And so when you actually see, like, you go and put a tablet and then you try and effectively outdo all of the other stuff, it's not going to work. And so it's one of these things where there is no point. I know if you're talking specifics with individuals, potentially you have IBS or all of these things. This is we're talking overview. We're not talking individually, like, okay, but on average, you taking a probiotic and you get 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep consistently. You don't look after your health. You intake a lot of alcohol. You don't, you're not looking after yourself. It is going to do absolutely nothing.
So we see it all the time. We have, like Georgia just said, people that undersleep, don't eat on a regular basis, and their self-care habits don't line up, and basically suffer from like intestinal bloating or really poor digestion, and they're drinking bottles and bottles of Simprove and taking 60 billion colon forming units and all these other different supplementations.
Also, can I just point out, this is expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive. But the professionals, in inverted commas, that are telling you that this is going to particularly help are not telling you, well, maybe you should also look to sleep 8 hours a day. Maybe you should look to tend to your circadian rhythm, which regulates your digestion. Maybe you should simplify your food choices and narrow your wider spectrum of foods.
But I think it's very important to understand with stuff like bloating, it's this weird concept. Everybody always says like, I've just eaten a meal, I'm really bloated.
Yeah, like...
It's like your food is digesting.
The food doesn't just disappear down a dark, like a rabbit hole. It moves down your digestive tract and then sits in your intestines and stomach and gets digested. And the enzymes and things that are and the acids that are used to break down foods are going to cause some level of inflammation. And it's this constant and it was on social media all the time, and it used to drive me to the point of almost drinking. Was the whole like, look at my 6 a.m. flat stomach, 6 p.m. big stomach, and it's all these obviously people trying to be super relatable, but it's like, guys, you can't compare when you're completely fasted, you've just slept, and then 7 p.m. at night, you've had 3 meals, 4 liters of water, you've done a workout. It's just, of course you're going to be bloated, especially in the evening when, not to get into chronological digestion and all that kind of,
kind of boring for podcasts.
Yeah, we just want to glaze over the main important tasks, but, the expectance, and it is down to social media, that you're just never meant to be bloated ever, and you're meant to just
but what
around.
Fucks me off is the ones that, like, the people that say that they're bloated. Oh, God, it's always the ones that they're not fucking bloated, are they?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
They're
tiny.
Anterior pelvic tilt, pushing your stomach out.
And you've literally just blown out some air, and then you've gone. Yeah. And this is the thing. This is where the supplement industry with stuff like social media became very, very twisted, because people were like, oh, I've just done 14 days on a shit tea, do you know what I mean? And I've lost it. They took the photo the same fucking day. They were just breathing in or breathing out. And then they sold thousands, if not millions, of supplements to very vulnerable people who actually probably were dealing with some weight issues or wanted to lose weight and thought, oh, do you know what? This is going to eliminate my fats by blowing out air.
It's like it's almost like passive aggressively bullying somebody by picking up on trigger points that make them feel shit about themselves, and then extrapolating and taking advantage of those feelings by selling you something that's not going to work.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's how the world sometimes runs, though. I feel like people very much, we're not going to, as I said, with conspiracies of life is not something we're going to discuss too greatly.
But I think what we want to just touch on and get to the bottom of is which supplements do work, which supplements are not necessarily worth your time and
so we've covered BCAAs. So obviously, as we said, just try and hold your horses with that. I know it's very tempting when you see a little glitzy girl.
It's great though, because if you do see that, then that should send flags up, and you just know that avoid.
Yeah, some people it won't though. It's just something that I guess, as I said, the world works. Obviously, then you've got stuff like probiotics, prebiotics. If we're not talking about digestion as such today, so I think this is a topic which is a huge topic. Yeah, it's a very nuanced topic. So. But if we move on to stuff like...
we're not saying that digestive probiotics and things are not of value, but they are only of value once all other consideration and self-care habits are ticked off.
As we said, like you can't expect a miracle from knocking...
Like if you're on a rager and you're on a 4-day bender and then you're going to drink some Synproof, good luck.
Why do you know, Mark, from your back in the day?
Speculation.
Fucking probiotic on a 4-day bender, I feel really bad. Literally, let me just knock back 3 maybe, even the bottle says 1.
For all those who are out there that know, the 5-HTP on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I know, but the 5-HTP was also not...
Yeah, it's getting you nowhere.
Yeah, it's getting you absolutely nowhere. So I think if we move on to... I think we'll try and avoid the ones that I guess could be quite triggering to people in such of like fat burners and stuff like that. I actually just want to quickly brief over what a fat burner actually is, because this is something that is still sold. It's in, you'll see it potentially, even very big brands, which I still have quite a lot of respect for some of the brands, but they still sell it as like a fat burner, or I'm not going to say the word, something shreds, or something where
something shred or
it's telling you that it's burning fat. Now, what is an actual fat burner? Technically,
it's a combination of natural ingredients and herbs and all sorts of stuff. But
most of the time, it contains
to kind of like elevate your metabolic rate.
It's mainly caffeine. So a fat burner is an extreme amount of caffeine technically, which means the reason they say that you can burn fat on it is because you technically, when you've inhaled that much caffeine, you are going to move a lot more. So some people do, some people don't. But if you're a bit, jittery and you're all over the fucking place, you're effectively increasing your non-conscious movement, and that could potentially I guess manipulate your overall energy expenditure, but it doesn't burn fat.
It doesn't.
There is no.
You have to create a negative energy balance from some form of restriction and move and increased movement.
And all of these things, if you ever read these on the back of the packet, they will say a healthy diet. I mean, what the fuck? Is a healthy
in inverted
diet?
commas, in the smallest part where you can't actually see it.
Yeah, and then they'll say healthy diet and some exercise. And they always say that in the thing. And people are like, no, actually, I'll avoid those two and I'll just take the tablet, Yeah,
because it's the easy way out. Or it's the missing link to, the problem that is, managing your own personal health and well-being. It's like this, this is what's missing. This is what's going to fix X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, but I think I would quite like going off of fat burners. As I said, I don't really want to be touching too much on real things that really just are
Why would you pay to do something when you can just do it yourself? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you spend the 40 to 60 quid on the supplement when you can just create a negative energy balance
because
through
it's too
diet?
hard, Mark. For a lot of people, they see it as we've always sold it, not us, but unfortunately, as we said, we don't sell the sexy answer. It comes down to hard fucking work
the same
and consistency.
Answer over and over again.
But for a lot of people, just like how our brains work, we're getting that dopamine fix or getting that instantaneous thing. Selling a supplement versus being consistent on calorie intake, blah, blah, is easier. In your mind you go, wow, that's a good idea, I've done it, you know what I mean? When I was shaking the Adios pill shitting on the toilet.
If you have it, but if you don't create an energy balance, which you have to do regardless whether you take it or not, then and you're 60 quid down the drain.
And yes, I know, but again, 60 quid for a lot of people. They don't even view it as anything when it comes to a supplement, but yet when it comes to coaching, it's this two polar opposite things. They're buying a product which they think is a miracle versus them actually having to apply themselves. And this is the thing, like, you know, what would you rather? In the grand scheme of things, you'd rather just take the supplements. You didn't have to do the hard work. Unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. But going off of this, I think the supplements we really want to talk about today that genuinely
have
benefit, again, going back to the foundations, will only have benefit if you are addressing everything else. So if you're going to take anything from this, it is the fact that you need to address your lifestyle, habits.
And if you haven't, or if you're not, then supplements the conversation shouldn't even be had.
A lot of people jump to the supplements the first thing when actually it should be really the last. So going off of that, stuff that we have advised on and know a lot about, and also just FYI, a lot of what we're talking about has a huge amount of research already, you know, is very like stuff like creatine, whey protein.
Yeah, if you guys follow us on Instagram, we've referenced all the research and
and
like
so
that.
It's one of the things. But I think we should start with creatine, because I feel like creatine is literally like launched off.
Like when I was 16, it was basically considered like a steroid.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And my mother was not interested in buying me creatine.
Carol was not interested in the creatine. She was like, Mark, in Zimbabwe, we're not spending those Zim dollars on some creatine.
No.
But I think if you can talk off the fact, like, you know, as I said, we've got a lot of experience in different things. Mark has obviously been in the bodybuilding industry for a very long period of his life. And so, you know, taking off of steroids, Mark does know a lot about, obviously, steroids and all of that stuff. And I think it's definitely something we will speak about on another conversation. Not that we're advertising that in any way, but I think it's actually more important people know the safety of, you know, and also all the information.
There's a lot of, believe it or not, there's more recreational steroid users than you think, and they're not just bodybuilders, they're guys that just want to look good, and girls. And
stuff, I mean, like,
it will be, the topic will be not glorifying it, will be the positives, the benefits, and also the negatives, what and is it? The safer use models for performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, but anyway, we're moving on from PEDs. Let's go on to actually creatine. So creatine, obviously a white powder,
probably the most studied supplement in the world, in terms of it's been studied since, I think the earliest study was like the 1930.
And there's obviously, again, there's a lot of there's been a lot of different studies undertaken on creatine. Everything's come to the same, obviously, conclusion, but some have come back and, you know,
there was like
a few red flags.
There were certain studies that indicated that creatine consumption could have an impact on your kidneys,
also,
but that's obviously
with
the rise in DHT levels, but those have been
debunked.
I
hate the word debunked. I just don't like the word debunk, isn't it? It sounds like spunk. I don't know. I should not have said that. Anyway, so creatine's obviously known for the benefits in increase in muscle size, power, strength, a lot of cognitive benefits in the brain.
Yeah, it's a great supplement, and clients that we've encouraged to start supplementing with creatine have seen nothing but positive benefit.
Like, I've taken creatine for a long period of time, and like, I have to say, like, and this is just off of, again, personal experience on a supplement, and also, again, not being Miss Perfect, but I do also have very good nutritional and lifestyle factors, you know, catered into that. But, you know, I find it fantastic for hair, nails, skin. Like, if we're talking on the beauty elements of it, it's fantastic. And not only that, you know, your strength does improve significantly if you are lifting.
And the one thing that has a knock against creatine in general, which really irritates me, is you may or may not see a slight increase in weight. And if you're one of those people that starts taking creatine and you see 200 grams on the scale going up and you lose yourself, then you need to readdress the situation, because the weight increase is intramuscular. So the water that is penetrating the muscle and going into the muscle, making the muscle size bigger, stretching the fascia. And this is all a positive thing. So
if it doesn't happen,
if you see a person also promoting creatine that doesn't cause water retention, red flag. Creatine's meant to cause water retention. If your weight does go up, do not be disheartened. Don't be like, I need to cut weight.
Actually, because I feel like this is one thing that the people that pick up on that are the ones where that focus shouldn't even be a thing. So this could be somebody that take an individual who has a lot of weight to lose potentially, who has weighed themselves and is consistent weight, but wants to get stronger in the gym, can tick off all the boxes. The last thing that you should be worrying about is 200 grams on a scale, if that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And also, like, you've also got to understand, like, as we said earlier, it's that whole thing. If you go in on the scale fasted in the morning, you're going to be lighter than after you've had, 4 meals. Your weight will fluctuate, can be between multiple pounds a day sometimes.
Just even day to day. After a hard leg workout, I'll easily weigh 3 kilos heavier.
Yeah, so it's all of these things that you've got to take into account. What is 200, 100 grams? And at the end of the day, in the grand scheme, it's nothing, because it is benefiting you if you have that goal overall to obviously.
And also, when it comes to with creatine, it's about consistent consumption. So we get a lot of questions: if I don't take it on Friday, what am I going to do? Just carry on taking it between your 3 grams to 10 grams, depending on your body weight, consistently. If you take it for 2 weeks consistently, are you going to be Superman or Superwoman? No. If you take it for 4 weeks, are you going to see? No. Are you
12?
After about 8 to 12 weeks, would you after consistent application, day in, day out, every single day, will you actually start to see the benefits?
And again, not sexy, guys, because it's not a quick miracle.
No,
you're not going to just be like lifting.
It's about cell saturation, muscle saturation. These things take time.
So just a reminder on creatine, the biggest question we get asked is, my weight's gone up, or will my weight go up? That should not be a turning off point. No. And we're not telling you need to take creatine, but it is a very, very, very good supplement to potentially include in your overall daily lifestyle. And if you have additional questions on creatine, I think we've covered it a lot on our social media, but obviously you can always drop us a question and say, hey, like, what's the deal with creatine? But don't let that sort of, it makes you gain weight or do this. Like, those people that are selling this stuff don't really know what they're talking about. So just, it's a good supplement. If you want to increase muscle size, strength, power, have some cognitive benefits, see improvements pretty much overall with creatine.
It's a really good supplement.
The
only drawback that you might have is it might give you a bit of a runny tummy if you take too much in one sitting. And if that's the case, just split it up, split the dose up, morning, AM, PM. Another question we got: when can we take it? Take it, doesn't matter. It's not time dependent.
I mean, there are studies that say that technically, if you're going into the gym, there are studies that have recently come out that have said that potentially creatine taken after a session is more beneficial than before a session. But honestly,
do you know what I mean?
I know, but it's the same with everything.
No, I appreciate that.
Like there is a lot of things that people have sold off of saying you need to take it.
No, there was in the old bodybuilding magazines, they would say that if you drank creatine with a citrus juice, it would denature the creatine, and that you had to drink it with grapes.
Also, can I just point out, creatine doesn't taste great. So we do get questions where they're like,
it's flavourless.
Can I have? It's not. People say it's not got a flavour, but it still tastes like fucking powder. Like it's not exactly the most.
If you put chalk in water and then drank it, that's what it tastes like.
So what I'm trying to say is we get lots of questions saying, can I add it to my morning coffee? And I'm like, I wouldn't. That would fucking ruin it. Just how it was. Yeah. What we do is we knock it back either with pre-workout before we train, or we'll knock it back with like fruit squash, because it's honestly it's not that bad. It can and
cannot be soluble as well, like certain
tablets.
Tablets and.
Some tablets is a convenient source for a lot of people. There's obviously
but some of them are the size of suppositories.
Horrible indigestion 101 when you knock back. Sometimes you have to take like 3 or 4 of them in one
you've
go.
got to have a good no gag reflex.
Oh God, Mark, let's not with that. That's very inappropriate. God, was this like a sex podcast? We've already mentioned.
We'll save those for later.
We're saving nothing for later like this. So moving on from creatine, I think we should move on to protein powder.
Yeah. So you've got your traditional whey protein, which is milk or cheese that is just very refined, and you've got different types of whey, isolate, concentrate.
What's the difference between them? Isolate is technically the better.
It's like the purest.
Purest.
I hate to use that word, but
it's also probably the worst tasting and the most expensive out of all of them. Yeah. So if you're really into that nitty gritty, if you're listening to this and you're an athlete or something like that, maybe take into consideration this. If you are just general population, you want something that increases your protein target, or you want to mix it in something, or you want to, then just understand you just need a whey protein. There is one thing I will say is that whey protein does come in a number of different forms. You've got ones that are like fruit flavored,
brave.
Okay, we're going to be honest with this. Like, fuck, the foam on that shit when you whisk it
the
up.
clear whey.
The clear whey. I think it's there. It's just not there.
The taste is better because we've tried one that is...
How can you create a fruit squash out of something that is derived from fucking cheese and milk? It doesn't make sense, does it? It's not as great as you think it tastes.
The taste, we had that lemon tea one, and it was quite nice.
Mark,
but the froth, the
your
foam...
tastes and my tastes are very different sometimes.
Better, I personally think it's better than a whey.
I would disagree. I would say that I prefer chocolate.
You could. I prefer Cadbury's.
Cadbury's are 12 ideally. I think whey protein on average doesn't taste that great, but if you mix it with some things, it's okay.
You could spice it up. A little bit of
Here we go. A little bit of ice.
Right, here we go.
Is that spicing it up? Wow, don't test yourself with the ice.
A little bit of ice, handful. Where people go wrong, too much water. 200 mils tops.
Personally, I think water and whey protein, I know it's a calorie saving thing, but I actually think it tastes better with some kind of milk. You want the ice to
give you the body. You want the 200 mils of water to give you a little bit of...
Or like a plant-based milk, because it actually tastes quite nice.
Yeah, plant-based milk would work. Or coconut water. We had...
What the fuck? Disgusting.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
Oh, that was what was made at the studio.
It's very sweet.
No, coconut water is not a vibe.
No, when you mix it with, so 200 mils of water, maybe a bit of cinnamon or...
Sorry, are you like a chef all of a sudden?
I'm basically Jamie Oliver.
Really? Jamie Oliver's got nothing interest apart from chicken nuggets. But like, Mark's smoothie. If you want Mark's smoothie recipe.
Bit of peanut butter, right? No.
You used to put avocado in your smoothies.
I used to put oats.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit hectic, actually.
Yeah,
I don't think many people enjoy that.
5 a.m, the last thing you want to do is sit down and have a meal. You want to just drink.
So you'd love to eat half an avocado in a smoothie.
Yeah, you want to line the stomach.
Listen to that. That's a bodybuilder talking. Just line that stomach with a lovely protein shake.
Yeah.
Rather just have some fucking toast and jam and shut the fuck up. Like, literally. So obviously, like, you got whey. Like,
you could mix it in with yogurt as well.
Okay,
yogurt.
Why did you just say yogurt?
Because some people say yogurt.
Yeah, in Zimbabwe they do, because you're more like American than English in the way you speak. You say things differently, don't you? You said that when I said yogurt, you thought it was really weird.
Yogurt.
Yogurt. I spell yogurt with an H. No, Y-O-G-H. That's not...
H.
I don't know why, what's going on. Anyway, so obviously there's many ways you can utilise protein bits, but we are in the day and age now that the majority of supermarkets do also offer... We're not going to brand drop here because we're not sponsored by... No, I'm joking. But there is a brand called Arla in the UK,
very
which
nice.
has got very good protein yogurt and very good... Yeah. Well, when I say very good, it's not your McDonald's chocolate milkshake.
No, it's not like a gourmet milkshake.
Would you say that it's a gourmet milkshake from McDonald's, or would you just
say
the machine's always
go
broken?
to like a really nice restaurant and get a nice milkshake?
Mark loves a milkshake.
I love milkshakes.
Yeah, at one point you said you couldn't even have milkshakes. You used to drink them all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that lactose intolerance is no longer.
Be brave.
So you can get, we have, and we always have in the fridge, like an Arla chocolate milk. And the only reason we have those is not, oh my God, it's protein. Well, actually, it's quite useful because we either pour them on cereal, which is fantastic, like Cocoa Pops, or we have them just as a drink and they've got like 25 grams of protein. Just to be aware of all these things do have quite higher calorie amounts, these convenience protein sources.
Because it actually tastes half decent, so you're going to have to sacrifice.
So, like, for example, like a bottle of that has 25 grams of protein in an Arla protein will statistically have about 250 calories, which is not a lot, but if you're using it as a snack, a protein powder with water would statistically have less, but it will taste worse. So it really comes down.
It gives me like
PTSD.
Yeah, just flashbacks of like
what?
Hazelnut.
You just literally just told people about your fucking milk smoothie recipe, and now you're telling me you had PTSD from drinking that.
Yeah, if you just drink it with just water.
Mark's recipe, just don't.
No, if you're drinking with just water, you need to, like I said, you need to spice it up.
You've got to spice it up. So with your ice,
you've got to spice it ice. Bit of cinnamon.
Yeah, but again, you're adding a lot of additional calories just for the sake of making it taste better.
To make it palatable. But after you've added all your additionals in, you're probably better off just drinking a really nice protein-based milk.
Yeah, like, so anyway, that's going off. Same with yogurts. I personally think there's way better options. You can have like a Greek natural yogurt.
There's obviously different types of protein powders. There's hemp. There's,
so if we're going off plant-based, there's some very, very good plant-based proteins. There is some things actually I wanted to speak about with just like plant-based stuff is sort of getting, all those amino acids in your diet and stuff like that. I think that's something we need to talk about because when you choose to live a more plant-based lifestyle, or maybe you are entirely vegan, like your protein intake is something. Same with B12, same with a number of things that normally do come from more animal based products. These things you need to start thinking about if you want longevity in the lifestyle that you have chosen.
There are certain essential and non-essential amino acids that are and aren't available in plant-based sources of protein. So ensuring that you get a full spectrum of amino acids, especially leucine, which can be a bit tricky for vegans and vegetarians. Leucine obviously being the most important amino acid when it comes to muscle protein synthesis and retaining and building muscle. So you have to get a wider variety, and because of the bioavailability of the protein, you also have to get more protein. So if you're plant-based or vegan, you have to get, I would say, between 10 to 15% more protein than your animal protein.
Because I think we've talked about this. Maybe we talked about this on one of the other podcasts. Maybe it's just in my imagination. But when things like quality of protein comes down, if you're talking about like thermic effect of food and how it breaks down in your body, like there are, I guess, differences between.
Yes, there's like not all proteins are the same. Each proteins have different types of bioavailability and utilization and.
So if we talk about a protein bar...
we could spend a whole...
Yeah, but if we talk about a protein bar, for example, with that, the majority of the time, the protein can be coming from, like, gelatin. Yes. So we're not talking plant-based now because you wouldn't be having that if that's the case. But it is these things where, is that the best sort of quality protein?
I would imagine everybody knows what gelatin is, and if you don't, Google it, or if maybe you shouldn't if you want to become plant-based.
Well, tell people what gelatin is then.
It's just leftovers of everything.
Kind of gross.
It's like hooves and snouts.
Okay, right. Let's not put everybody off of eating a protein bar. It's kind of gross. Yeah. Do you know what also has gelatin? Percy pigs. And you like Percy pigs, don't you, Mark?
If one thing could come from this podcast, it would be
a packet of Percy pigs.
A sponsorship for Percy pigs.
From Percy directly.
From Percy into my mouth daily.
Into your mouth daily.
If I could have like a dispenser of Percy pigs,
I would say that like it's kind of like it's an underrated sweet. Well, I kind of think like I would only be able to probably have one or two, but give me like a bar of Galaxy and then we're on for a winner.
Your parents have given me like 5 packets for Christmas and I've eaten them in 30 minutes.
When we used to live in Cape Town, obviously like we couldn't get Percy pigs over in South Africa, and my mum used to literally like lie sending on DHL. She was sending across a load of food products and it literally was like chocolate buttons, Mauam stripes, Percy pigs. pigs. It'd literally just be like a whole box of shit, and then she'd just throw in some random top and pretend that she was sending. So yeah, no, we are a fan of those Percy pigs. But anyway, going back to obviously gelatin, the quality of your protein does matter, and so if you are vegan or vegetarian, plant-based, you are going to statistically need to include more protein sources in your diet, which can be a little bit challenging. Yeah. It's doable.
It's very doable. And we've seen lots of plant-based individuals that we know and have worked with navigate that
really well, actually. Really well, yeah. But again, it comes down to having the right advice and understanding what builds your nutrition on a day-to-day basis with that. Yeah. And I think it's sometimes very useful having somebody like sort of give you the inspiration to like, how to, if you're choosing one day, like not many people, I mean, a couple of my best friends are vegetarian, have been for years on end, but, on average, you don't come out vegetarian or vegan. It's a choice that you decide you would like to live by. And I appreciate, obviously, with the environmental things and personal reasons that it's a choice that you take. However, the one thing I will say is the vegan thing did pick up quite heavily a few years ago. And then you realise that a lot of those people did revert trendy, back wasn't it? To not being completely vegan, because primarily it wasn't necessarily due to the fact that they didn't like being vegan. It was the fact that they actually felt really shit due to the fact that their nutrition wasn't matching what it should really be like. Yeah. What I mean by that is they didn't know potentially how to fuel yourself based off of just plant-based products. Yeah. It is challenging.
Yeah, it's not just like going to the shops and buying some
like a chicken sandwich.
Beyond meat patties and just
don't be sponsoring Beyond. I think actually of anyone, they're the most processed, like vile fucking. And now Kim Kardashian's the face of it, which is like even better.
Because she's a very ethically strong individual.
Yeah, she's very, very knowledgeable. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I guess stuff for plant-based proteins. That everything's very, very good, and I will say that has progressed year on year, month on month with the supplement industry.
You get good hemp, good pea, good.
Everything really. Like, and we've tried a few plant-based ones.
Nuzest was a good one that we used to like.
Yeah, Nuzest.
Clean and Lean, obviously quite a horrible name.
Horrible name.
Clean. Ugh.
Oh, Clean and Lean.
It's like what? So I'm eating dirty food.
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels a bit like oh, I've got clean and lean. Like fuck. Like, can we just move on from that? Anyway.
Clean eating, the worst thing according to clean nutritionists or dietitians, is rice. That's what they reckon is the worst thing that you could possibly eat.
Yeah, white rice. Could you get anything worse?
Do you know what I mean?
Instead, have brown rice. Do you know what I mean? It's like brown rice.
Zucchinis in every format possible.
We're in England. It's not called a zucchini, Mark.
What is it called?
A courgette. This is what I mean. We just said that you've got a more American approach, or I don't know if it's European. No, it's American zucchini. Do you call it an aubergine or an eggplant? Do you even know what that is? I don't know why it just looked at me like I would never eat an aubergine.
I've never
give.
I don't think we even have those in Zimbabwe.
I don't know. Maybe. This is the thing. Carol will tell you.
It's not something my mother ever fed me. I know.
Because you wouldn't eat it because you were a brat.
Would have been like, no.
No, absolutely no. It's like my dad the minute that my mum puts green vegetables.
Chips, rice, like his veggie intake is.
My mum always says that when she makes meals for my dad, that like when you put a large slide of like green vegetables, they will be avoided.
Yeah, I swear.
And she says it's because my father was brought up up north. It's the reason he doesn't like eating vegetables. It's like, okay, like literally, maybe she just doesn't want that bed of kale that you're serving stuff on. But yeah, anyway, aubergine, eggplant, God knows, zucchini. All of these things, they've all got their own benefit.
They've all been over-marketed to be superfoods, which is also something kind of related to supplements. Superfoods.
Are there superfoods is the question.
I mean, no, not really. Like there's a definition of superfood. Foods have got calories, foods have got macros and micronutrients.
Again, it's the same as like knocking back a probiotic when you sleep 3 hours a night and drink 3 bottles of wine. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's like,
that's the one thing that always really perplexed me, was a lot of people
there's a lot of things triggering you today.
Yeah, I'm in a triggering mood today. It's just a lot of people that would push the superfoods and the smooth detox smoothies and all of that, but then on a Friday night would just, you know, inhale 4 bottles of wine in a bag.
And a bag of cocaine. Yeah. I love those people. I'm so healthy, and it's like, are you? Okay, like literally, okay, like
you weren't that healthy at the staff party when I saw you swinging from the chandeliers.
Oh my God, staff parties. Fuck, we haven't had one of those in a while because we are the staff. Like, literally, should we have a party? The party will be in bed by 9 with
DJ
the dogs.
Mosquito.
What?
DJ Mosquito.
What's that? When
you're sleeping, the mosquito's the DJ.
Mark, we live in Africa now. We don't need a net around our beds. We don't need those malaria tablets. We're in the United Kingdom. Anyway, I think other supplements that we definitely need to talk about.
Vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin B12.
Actually, I think we should talk about caffeine quickly.
Yeah, caffeine's also...
Obviously, we all know caffeine from like coffee,
near
teas.
And dear to my heart, literally.
Is it? Because it literally feels us on a day-to-day basis. Caffeine is one of those things that it's a very personal thing, caffeine. Some people get very affected by it and just cannot intake it. Even like a matcha will set them off, or like a green tea. In fact, actually, if I was to have anything caffeine orientated that would set me off the most, that wasn't like a sports supplement, it would be green tea. Jesus Christ, that shit's powerful.
Your dad's coffee machine.
Oh, yeah, my dad's coffee machine. It's honestly rocket fuel for anxiety.
Literally anxiety in a cup.
Yeah, and actually that's so true.
Yeah, so hectic, good though.
Isn't it? So good, but so not.
You're like, I wonder why I'm so anxious and my palms are sweating.
Anyway, so obviously we all know like having a coffee or how much coffee should I have a day. Like we know people, in fact your dad, he'll drink a coffee before he goes to sleep. And I know many people that do that. They can have an espresso at fucking 10 or 11 at night and be literally
just because you're sleeping doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the best quality sleep though.
Yeah, but a lot of people have run their lives, and it's just like I know people that have got such high caffeine and like tolerances that they could literally drink like 8-9 cups a day.
Very common once you finish a meal at night in a restaurant, everybody has coffee or a tea afterwards.
But I will say that there are a lot of things coming out now that if you do feel highly anxious off of intaking a lot of caffeine and you can't necessarily manage that and you're not really sure, I wouldn't advise like taking too much of it, because it can make you like energy drinks, you know, all of these things can really actually
heighten your overall anxiety
to make you feel, which is not it's not great for a day-to-day basis, running around with a shit ton of anxiety because you fueled it yourself. So if you do find the effects quite greater than some, then I wouldn't necessarily advise having huge amounts of caffeine. No. If anything,
you could opt for a nootropic, which is obviously very different to very different type of stimulation from just straight caffeine.
I mean, if we're talking like, obviously we know the coffees and we know the green teas and we know of that. Going off of that, green tea supplements for fat burning. Red flag. Wrong. No.
Computer says no.
No green tea is going to make you lose weight. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and that's the end of that. Going on from that.
I mean, the only like things that would potentially make you lose weight in a supplement form would probably be illegal, though, for you to obtain. Things like ephedrine and
but Mark, that's going off
Yobamine.
Mark, but that's illegal, and we're not promoting illegal drugs.
Which is obviously illegal. So if you are,
please sign the contract.
If you are buying these things from people, then it's also a bit shady.
Actually. Especially America's got a lot of that. But if we're talking about stuff like pre-workouts, we love a good pre-workout. I'm not going to lie.
Because it contains a lot of caffeine and that's also...
I mean, going off, we've spoken about this on podcasts before. Like when our lives are running, like on average, we would do minimum 12 clients, max sort of 15 clients a day sometimes when we were working full time, like face to face. And we used to fuel ourselves on caffeine. Like we would have minimal sleep. It's not exactly ideal, as we say. We sometimes end up worse off than.
Yeah, if you're in the industry, you're at one with a coffee machine.
Oh Jesus, aren't you? And you're at one trying to find that coffee machine at all times of the morning or night.
Yeah, the cost.
But same if you're working night shifts. All of these things, you know, caffeine is the thing that fuels us, or has been told to fuel you. Sometimes it actually doesn't. You know, I sometimes have a coffee and I'm hoping I'm going to suddenly be awake, and I'm not.
You know, the half-life of the caffeine molecules plus or minus 6 to 8 hours. So when you do consume your caffeinated or stimulating beverages or powders, you got to think working backwards. Okay, what time am I roughly going to be going to bed to make sure that it doesn't have a negative impact on your sleep duration, getting to sleep, or B, your actual sleep quality, being able to, travel through the stages of REM
so
cycles.
you always got to take that in consideration when you do knock back. Like, remember, stuff like pre-workouts will have higher amounts of caffeine in than a coffee.
It's like chaser, because then you caffeinate to energize, and then then you impacts your sleep, and then you wake up more tired, then you caffeinate again, and you're just going round and round.
So you want to avoid that cycle, address the sleep, and normally if you can't get to sleep, or you're struggling to get to sleep, or your qualities, you could be down to your caffeine intake overall. But a pre-workout is technically a large dose of caffeine with mixing of
vasodilators and beta-alanines
and beta-alanine is one of those ones where if you've ever taken a pre-workout and you have like an itch in your lips or your face and it feels a bit tingly, that's Mark loves that clearly.
I love that feeling.
That's part of the ingredients to a lot of pre-workouts.
They've all got different, depending on the brands, they've got their own different dosages and different ingredients, and
I love a pre-workout. I always have loved a pre-workout. What they like to refer to
as a proprietary blend.
Wow. Okay. I would say that I don't struggle to be like I'm not being like this person. I love going to the gym, so like it's like these things that I don't go to the gym. I like my routine feels really fucking weird, and it is these things where sometimes you don't necessarily feel as sprightly as other days.
No, you need a little
bit of a kick, a bit of assistance. And sometimes the coffee doesn't do that. Maybe it's too much liquid, or you don't want an espresso because it'll give you heartburn. We actually use a very good pre-workout. It's we're not actually going to mention names, but there's a very good supplement brand.
If you're ever
wanting supplements, it's a very good brand called Supplement Needs, which is, I would say, the best UK brand for supplements out there, because
good customer service as well.
Very good customer service. Not only that, very well researched, and the people that are on board with all of that stuff are highly educated. So
they're very switched on.
If you ever need supplements, not that we're pumping you to this.
We're not affiliated with them, though.
But we have worked with them a lot in the sense of our own supplementations and getting clients.
But that's where we order all our supplements from.
So there's some very good ones, and if you like a bit of a kick before, there's nothing wrong with a pre-workout. A question we do get asked about pre-workout, do you need to track that stuff? No. If you're tracking calories, it's really minimal at the end of the day, unless you're standing on stage and need to like understand your water levels.
And there's outside of just the energy, you get mental focus, you get muscle pump, you get a whole variety of things which can be beneficial. If you're able to lift 1 or 2 more reps in a workout because of your pre-workout over a long period.
And it has been shown, studies have shown that, taking pre-workout before a session
there are more and more legitimate studies that are coming out with regards to pre-workout, and it's a personal preference at the end of the day.
Yeah, like if you don't, as I said, if you don't enjoy that.
If you're going into it thinking that you're going to find one that tastes nice, then...
Well, I would say we've currently got one, green apple, and I would say that it's not horrible. It tastes like one of those child sweets we used to have. There are some horrendous tasted pre-workouts where you literally feel like you're about to regurgitate it.
Yeah, gag with you.
But we've found one that's either green apple or lemon pineapple. It sounds a bit weird, but it does actually taste like lemon
throwback to the days when you drink our apple sours.
Oh God, no. Well, that brings back bad memories for me. 13 underage
highlighted
drinking. Hair. Okay, and this is why we married later on in life, Mark, because the fact you had frosted tips
3/4 shorts with the pearl necklace, not the pearl necklace.
No, did you have a shark tooth around your neck?
Close, and
Mark used to
the
drive
flat
a yellow
peak
car.
cap. Yeah, flat peak cap at night.
It's at night. I'm not going to make a statement. Those 3/4 leg trousers on a man we wouldn't be married.
White shoes.
If white shoes, I bet you were those fucking slip-ons, weren't they? Those gross white shoes.
Easy.
The slip-on Lonsdale.
Yeah.
I'm sure so many people listen to this that I've ever brought up about shoes. I've got a really bad thing about shoes. So many women do, actually, when they meet men. It's like the first thing they look at is their feet, just to check that they've not got some fucking hideous shoe on. Mark's fashion taste was clearly something that wouldn't have matched mine.
No.
Not that mine was any better, probably, at that age. There's some horrific photos.
Yeah, I
of me
think at
growing up.
13, you just...
What, knocking back the apple sours? You were clearly, having a great time in your three-quarter lengths. But yeah, apple sours does taste a bit like apple sours, actually. Well, no, but actually it tastes way better than that, because apple sours is honestly vile. Anyway, so supplements that we'll move on to stuff like vitamins, because this is another one which, again, you can't expect a huge result from a vitamin unless you're going to take this consistently. Again, repeating ourselves with the foundations of self-care habits.
Making sure that you have a progressive lifestyle.
So I think the ones that we think are, but I think are beneficial.
And have also been scientifically proven to have benefit.
Number one, we'll start with, I think, vitamin D.
Yes, crucial.
Obviously, especially if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. Even then, even if you live in a country which is warm or the sun's shining 24/7, it's not really advised to go and sit out in the sun all bloody day.
No,
most of the time you don't get access to
wanna,
it. So, when we lived in South Africa, I know we used to just go and sit in the garden a bit, but we didn't actually sit in the sun that often. We were working, So it's one of these things where, are you getting enough? And I still think that I probably was deficient, even though I was living in the sun.
I think you realistically got to get like 20 to 30 minutes of direct sunlight exposed to the face and the eyes, but that also depends on the season, without getting too nerdy and geeky about it, but the angle of the sun penetrating your skin, stimulating, you know what I mean?
So get your compass out and then just work out exactly which
get
fucking...
out the protractor.
The protractor. We're going to go at a 160 to the, literally...
Sorry, the sun's only at 15 degrees.
And the moon will be coming out in approximately...
so, even if you are, think about when it's winter and the sun is still shining, the 90% of your body's still covered.
Yeah. And so this is something you've also got to understand. A lot of women, I will say women because it's more put on us than men, sunscreen at factor 50, God forbid the wrinkles, and all of these things, they do block, obviously, you potentially getting vitamin D.
And different ethnicities also require different amounts of vitamin D.
Yeah, they do. And it's something that's really important to know. It's not all just the same for everybody. And there are... for different ethnicities, you also need to take into consideration doses and exactly how much you need.
There are very good studies that have broken down between Caucasian people, people of color, Asian people, and the different impacts and requirements of vitamin D, and it is on a spectrum. It does vary from ethnicity as well.
So vitamin D is one that, if you're not taking it, we just highly suggest you take it, especially if you're based in the UK. You are going to be deficient. If anything, I would say, the recommended daily allowances of what we call obviously RDAs have at previous, I don't know if they've changed recently, but in the past few years came about that a lot of these recommended allowances are very old. So this is talking years ago. Stuff where research and our lifestyles were different. All of this came into play, which means the doses on vitamin bottles can sometimes actually be on the really lower end. When they say take one tablet, this is going to get you the most amount. With vitamin D, what's the maximum they say? I mean, some people can take up to 10,000 IUs a day, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you'd still be okay. But again, it's one of these things, you don't just go in with 10,000 IUs. No. You need to build up with...
And the main thing with vitamin D is it's incredibly beneficial towards your mental health.
Yes, hugely so.
There's obviously causation doesn't mean correlation or...
Correlation doesn't mean cause... No.
I can't.
Correlation doesn't mean causation.
I was just trying to sound clever.
Okay. You're very
you know
smart,
what I'm
Mark.
trying to say.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm trying to say.
But it does. There is a link between, when you do look at the research, a link between vitamin D deficiencies and certain types of mental illnesses or
Mm-hmm.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Who knows? A, B, C, D, E, F. Who knows? Mark's having a moment.
I've lost it.
You've lost it. You've lost it. This is it.
gone.
We're
It's
ending the podcast
disappeared.
right now. Anyway, going back off of vitamin D, that this is a supplement which, if you are vitamin, if you are looking, it does come in some food sources, but again, even though if you were eating, I actually would say that, I know we say try and get it in from whole food sources. I would say that vitamin D should be additional. Like, it shouldn't necessarily be all coming from food sources because you won't get enough.
No, you won't.
So if you are lacking in that,
we
or
all
deficient,
pretty much are lacking in
we are all
vitamin D.
deficient.
Just to, I mean, it is. I don't know if it's a hyperbolic statement, but they do say that it is a worldwide.
Yeah, it's a worldwide issue with the fact that you are deficient.
I hate to use the word, but they do use the word pandemic. Of vitamin D deficiencies. I know it's been...
Anyway, so vitamin D, and then we've got stuff like vitamin B12. Now, this is one where a lot of people have, and you've probably been aware of somebody going on like a B12 injection to get, like, there's a lot of people that potentially have very low B12 levels due to either health issues or
being a vegetarian.
Being a vegetarian, a vegan. B12 normally comes, if we're going back to whole food sources, from more animal protein, animal sources. So if you are a vegan vegetarian, you are not going to be getting enough B12. B12 can also really help
bone density,
fatigue,
things,
energy. I have a few clients actually that have B12 like injections every 3 months, but that's obviously due to previous health conditions they've had or illnesses and stuff. But I would say that if you are choosing a more plant-based lifestyle, like, I don't take additional B12 on a daily basis, probably because I cover enough in my nutrition and I don't feel like I need to take it as such.
I mean, we eat 3 to 4 servings of vegetables per day,
and meat, and fish and all of that. So it's all balances out. But if you're not getting that in, and I would say that, and you're feeling very fatigued, again, address everything else before you address the supplement.
All the other self-care habits have been addressed.
How many times do you think we've said address your self-care habits?
We can't stress that enough. If we want one thing for you guys to take home today, is that without addressing sleep, nutrition, movement, and your own kind of internal narrative, then supplementations shouldn't even be a discussion.
That being said, stuff with B12, like, I would say that if you are a vegan vegetarian, you're not taking it in, I would say I would start taking it. Then moving on from B12, omega-3s, very good for a number of things. Obviously, everybody knows about that. The NHS banged on about 2 portions of oily fish a week for your nutrition, and that was because primarily the fact of the omega-3s coming from it. Or you could say 369s, they sell them in a number of different forms. Omega-3s are a great supplement for literally, like, cognitive benefits, joints, loads of things, actually.
With joints, in the sense that, like, your joints could be hurting because posture's not great.
So
like,
and omega-3 is not going to change your shoulders being super rounded.
If you've got knee pain, then it's not going to go away from just taking fish oils.
Absolutely no way. In fact, that would be like
a mechanical issue. It's a gait issue.
Yeah, there's so many things. You've got to see something. Okay, well, I'm going to take this to make it better because it says it on the packet. Again, posture's not going to change with a tablet. That comes down to hard work and adjusting, obviously, how you move. But omega-3s are another thing that if you're not really, there's so many people I know that don't like fish, not interested in the slightest. It is one of the only sources of omega-3s in the sense of, like, higher quality or quantities of it. So I would say that if you're not getting that in and you're not sort of a fan of a salmon or a mackerel or whatever, then omega-3 every day is a beneficial. You can get it in a number of forms. You could go liquid, you could go tablets is always better. Liquid form is like not nice.
Like brands and stuff like that, also it's going to vary, especially with fish oils. Like, some brands are not great, some brands are really good.
Yeah, you've also got to see it as an expense thing. There's a lot of brands that are very, very expensive for vitamins, okay? And normally, actually, if you weigh it up, some of them are probably a little bit too overpriced.
Yeah.
But if you pick the cheapest option of vitamins, you'll realise they're either combined with something else, in the sense where, like, oh, what's the one that they combine with Omega? I can't remember. Anyway, they normally combine it together, which technically means that it's lower quality.
Yeah.
And then they'll say on the packet you need to take 3 or 4, when the other one could just say 1, and it might be that bit more expensive, but the quality is actually better.
Yeah.
Now, this is not for everything, don't get me wrong. Just because it's more expensive doesn't mean it's necessarily better.
Yeah.
But on average, I do notice it a lot more. Going back to, you know, like the supplement farmers, you know, stores that sell all of these things, you know, they will tell you to, you know, buy a cheaper option, but actually if you look on the back of the packet, you still need to take 3 or 4 or 5 to actually get the daily amount, when you could just take 1 and waste less.
And always be under the assumption, when it comes to supplements and their own recommended doses, the whole aim behind those recommended doses is for you to finish the product quicker, so that you can then rebuy it.
So always remember that.
There are certain things where we're like, okay, you should probably take more, depending on what it is, if it's a vitamin. But then generally what we've had, especially in the last like couple of weeks, when we've had clients feedback to us on their weekly check-ins, should I be taking the recommended dose of X? And generally the answer is no, you should be taking 1 scoop instead of 3 scoops.
Yeah.
Well, why would they advise me to take 3? Because if you take 3 scoops a day, you're rebuying the same product every fortnight.
Yeah.
If you're taking 1 scoop a day, you're buying the product every 6 weeks.
So there's, as we said, there's always financial profit.
Nobody's generally, especially when it comes, like, they're offering you a service in terms of a supplement, but under the guise that if they can cut costs at any point to make more money, they will. If they get you to consume the product more so that you buy it more, they will.
Yeah.
And they will say crazy things to you, like you take this and you'll lose 7 pounds and all this nonsense. They're not out for your best interest, in like they're trying to market to you, they're trying to get a sale, and it coincidentally may or may not happen that they give you a decent enough product to actually change.
I mean, there are some very, very good supplement brands out there, like vitamin ones. Like, if we were to go off of like vitamins, I would say
we're talking like 1, 2, 3 brands out of thousands.
Yeah, I'd say the top ones in the UK would probably be something like Lambert's, Solgar, like in the sense of their quality of products. But there's also a lot of things where you just got to make sure the back of the packet adds up. You know, those ones are, Lambert's is slightly more affordable, but something like Solgar is fucking expensive. You're walking, you're like, what the fuck? Like, genuinely.
Yeah, but are you buying, do you know what I mean? Is Solgar being manufactured in the same place as Lambert's in China, in the same factory, using the same drum?
We don't know.
And you're potentially buying a label,
that's for a conspiracy for another day.
Who knows?
But in the sense of the quality and the people that have done the research to produce these things, they seem to match up more than a lot of people. Say, for example, you get a lot of brands, supplements, fitness brands, shall we say, that sell vitamins on there, and statistically those are not.
Yeah,
they're
it's
okay.
a very low, because nobody from the general population is going to take their vitamin D tablet to an independent lab to get it analysed to see if there's enough.
Well, saying that, we know people that have taken products to labs to actually get broken down and have been eye-opened with how much they've lied. So, you know, one of the biggest things we could say actually is kind of like a supplement is like protein cookies, protein bars, all of this. And they took them to the lab and they broke it down, and it was eye-opening. It was the complete opposite of what they sold. There was fuck all
train
protein.
A gentleman from Amazon who was very, very high up in Amazon, and he obviously had a very keen interest on sports nutrition and nutrition in general. And because Amazon were wholesaling and selling supplements, they took their own they took the 10 best protein powders in the UK for independent testing, and had them tested to see if the label matched the ingredients and vice versa, and only 2 supplements passed. Brands. He wouldn't tell me. He wasn't allowed to tell me. I know which ones they were because I eventually got it out of him.
I fucking found out.
And that's the sad reality of it. It's like, it's just, at the end of the day, it is business.
Yeah, like as we said in a number of different podcasts, you know, one of the most manufactured and marketed words right now is protein. And there's so many products which say that they've got all of this stuff in it and they actually do not. And it's the same with like calorie amounts on foods. Like statistically, by law, you are allowed to have plus or minus like 20% off of what actually the calorie amount is in foods.
Yeah.
And so when you add up the macros on the back of a packet, if you know how to do that to equal a calorie amount, you'll realise that they're actually higher because they're allowed that.
They exclude things like dietary fiber.
And then that still contains calories. So what I'm saying is like, don't ever think that because it says it on the packet that it genuinely is that. And always just look. As we always say, like, I feel like we've stopped reading this shit, but you should read the back of packets, especially if it's a convenience source.
Look at the ingredients as well. Like, I know they can be quite confusing and they use a lot of E-numbers. And
I think E-numbers is dying down slightly unless you want to have your Percy pigs.
Well, they just change it. They just change it to something
they change it to something where, like, likely is you don't know any of all of these chemicals and stuff, and that's fine, but just be aware that, like, just because it says it might have it in doesn't mean it does. And actually going off of that, a lot of people who do need extra supplementation, a lot of them will take as we said, a combo supplement, which is like a multivitamin is great, but if you're in dire need of, or you're deficient in something like vitamin D, vitamin C, B12, all of these, then doing one tablet and a combined one will not give you the amount of IUs or quantity that you do need. So, you know, again, I think what's important to understand is the fact that none of these things, you know,
are a quick fix.
No. You've also got things, you know, I'm just going to end with this because like magnesium, that's a very highly spoken about supplement. Magnesium for sports performance and recovery was something that was always brought up, you know, have an Epsom salt bath because of the magnesium flakes and all of this. And there is proven science behind that. You know, again, magnesium's not going to solve everything.
Yeah,
you know?
If your volume and frequency on your exercise selection's crazy and you're doing like German volume training, 10 sets of 10 back squats, and you're working at a high RPE to the point where you almost die, then a magnesium salt bath is probably not going to help you.
But I'm also not talking about salt bath. I'm talking about there's loads of different variations of magnesium.
There's so many variations of magnesium.
There's powders, there's tablets, there's
different variations. And there's also different types of magnesium.
Yes, that's what I mean. So you've got like citrate, like glycine, all of these ones, they all have different forms and purposes. A lot of this also magnesium for like sleep, magnesium for hormone, you know, menstrual cycles. And, you know, there are proven and studies behind magnesium being beneficial. Again,
yes, there are studies, but when you scroll all the way down to the conclusion of the study,
it normally says
that we need to do more studies. So what generally people in the fitness industry will take the introduction or a couple of statements based off a study and be like, okay, there you go, like this does this,
and actually you've always got to weigh it up for many different, and this is why, you know, they always say, like, when you go and purchase something expensive, like go and weigh up 3 different options and then like purchase the one you think's better. It's the same thing with studies. You shouldn't just read one and assume that's exactly,
and then apply some level of experience to it, because you need some real world testing and stress testing and seeing. Okay, because we've highlighted before, we've physically with our own 2 eyeballs seen people progress and regress off certain supplementation.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's one of these things, like, I think we'll end this with the fact that no supplement is essential. I would say out of everything we have spoken about, if you're going to take one thing every day and you live in the UK, it would be vitamin D. I think vitamin D is one where actually we should potentially see it as essential for those on a day-to-day basis.
Mandatory for people that live in Northern Hemisphere.
If you're being sold a discount code, they have a financial reason behind
they're not here
that.
To help you, guys.
Whether or not they are, and they are just linked to a brand or whatever.
I take that back.
There are some people who are selling for a reason.
Because I'm not going to lie, if we had worked with a really good company and we knew for a fact that the supplements were of high quality and so on and so forth, would we back them? Yes.
Well, we've just mentioned supplement needs because technically we back them for what they've created as a brand.
We don't get financially reimbursed.
No, we don't. But I think if you're seeing a discount code on something specifically about supplements, please just be aware. I think we're gonna summarize this with one. BCAAs, please, just for the fucking life of God, just stop taking them. Like you don't need them. It's not something that, as we said, we've brought up the pros and cons of those things. If we could eradicate one thing, it would be that.
All you're doing is just buying another Chanel handbag for another blue tick.
Okay, I'm not being funny though, but I'd take the Chanel handbag over a BCAA.
Or a Range Rover.
A Range Rover on finance.
Do you know what I mean?
Literally, it's just like, I think, you are fueling somebody's pocket, especially if they look good and they're promoting a supplement. Just please remember, it's not essential for you to take. If you're going to take one thing that we're going to go back to, like we've probably gone back to every 10 minutes in this podcast, please address your self-care habits before you think about putting any supplement in your body. There is going to be no /fuck all
You'll see
change.
so much more progress from sleeping better, eating fruit and vegetables, moving your body on a regular basis, than, some miracle supplement that's going to make you shred fat and shred this and shred that. And
just, if it comes in a bottle, it's not going to make you lose weight.
We always say this: habits over fads.
Habits over fads. So if we could summarize that today, we hope you enjoyed a little bit of an overview of supplements and a number of different other things. We will wrap up today, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be back soon, and we will, speak to you soon, guys.
Bye.
Bye.